And they made commitment after commitment after commitment to engage in fair trade practices, to give American companies intellectual property rights in China, and of course to not impose all of these non-monetary barriers to entry to the Chinese market. And the question is in the last 20 years, have American companies been able to penetrate the Chinese market? And I think the answer is a resounding no.
You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
And welcome. You are listening to and watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm your host, Kerry Lutz. Well, we're talking about tariffs. We're talking about trade deals with China. Is there a deal? Is it imaginary? Is it all fluff? Are there two deals? Is there the public deal and then the real deal? Well, noted attorney and scholar Spencer Morrison, author, with us now to discuss. Spencer, great having you on the show. So, is there a deal, or is there a deal to make a deal, or is there really a deal that took place that we don't know anything about?
Hey, Kerry, it's my pleasure to be on the program. I think it's an interesting question that you posed. So the tariffs have been paused, of course, in bulk for 90 days, except for on certain goods. I think steel and automobiles, for example, the tariffs are still on the table. And allegedly, this is to give more time to negotiate. Now, I'm not particularly optimistic that negotiating with China is really going to get us anywhere. China joined the World Trade Organization in 2001, and they made commitment after commitment after commitment to engage in fair trade practices, to give American companies intellectual property rights in China, and of course to not impose all of these non-monetary barriers to entry to the Chinese market. And the question is in the last 20 years, have American companies been able to penetrate the Chinese market? And I think the answer is a resounding no. So China agreed to lift all of these barriers in 2001. They didn't. So I'm skeptical that we're going to make any headway here in the next 90 days. I mean, they've had 24 years to do it. They haven't done it. Another 90 days is probably not going to make that big a difference.
There is a difference now, though, and that is this situation in China is pretty dire. Basically, you got factories closing down by the thousands, unemployment rampant. It kind of reminds me of the pictures I'm watching coming out of there, the real ones, not the fake shill accounts. But it reminds me of the crash in the U.S. and the 29 crash, where like all these guys just leave a factory en masse and it's empty, and that's the end of it. And that's what's happening there. So one thing about Trump is we know he's a master of leverage, and he knows that this could be the exact right point where he applies maximum leverage to get maximum results, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, China's economy is uniquely vulnerable to these sort of shocks to trade because they have a very bifurcated economy. So a significant portion of their manufacturing industry is geared only towards exports. It's very different than an economy like America, or even, frankly, most developed economies in Europe, where most businesses have some exposure to exports and significant domestic exposure. In China, it's very different. Most of their businesses, up to 95% of their businesses, do not deal with other countries. They just service the Chinese market. But that 5 to 10%-ish of Chinese companies, they're 95% export oriented. So China is uniquely positioned to suffer from these sort of trade shocks. And of course, America's got all the leverage, just like you said. And the reason for that is because we're the country that's running the trade deficit, right? And we export to them, about a third of what we buy from them. So we have, every dollar of these tariffs and trade that's shifting around hits them 3 times as hard as it hits us.
Hey, and let's also be real, is that what we export to China, they really need. What we import, like if you don't get another iPhone charging cable, a USB-C cable, or a charger, your life will still go on. Outside of rare earth metals, which really aren't rare at all, we've just had a policy of not mining them. There's plenty of them all over the place. It's such a misnamed commodity because they're not rare, but they do come from the earth, you know?
Yeah, that's actually very true. They're rare because we didn't want to mine them because of the environmental and sometimes human consequences of doing so. But we've scaled up the production pretty significantly in the last 20 years. And of course, there's lots of other places we can get the same material. And to your point, China is exporting, it's exporting manufactured goods. That's stuff that we can build here. America's exports to China are overwhelmingly shifting towards raw materials, which of course an economy can't function without raw materials. It can build its own Polly Pocket toys and, Shein skirts or whatever we're getting from China these days.
Hey, and Temu is like dead in the water here. Hey, your book though, Reshore, How Tariffs Will Bring Our Jobs Home. And, there's a whole thing about tariffs. They go back to Smoot-Hawley in the 30s, that was the final nail in the coffin of the Great Depression. But this is a completely different case here. I mean, I'm a free trader by nature. All right. I'm a libertarian. I believe in free trade, except when it's weaponized against us and used to basically drive us into the ground and send us into a decline and pretty much enable them to achieve world hegemony. That's what's happening here. This is weaponized free trade. It's not good for us, but it's really not good for the Chinese either. The Chinese people, for the most part, there's been a lot of progress. They got iPhones or Androids or Chinese knockoffs, whatever it is. But still, the vast majority of China, and I've been there a couple times, live in unimaginable poverty that few people in this country could really comprehend the scale of it.
Yeah, and to your point, I think it's really important to remember that I think we're all on the same side in terms of being free market guys. We want a functioning free market, and we want functioning international free trade. But what we have right now and what we've had for the last 50 years is anything but free trade. There is no free trade with a country like China. China's it's run by the CCP, and the Chinese government supports and subsidizes all of these industries in order to change the trade volumes and the types of goods that are being traded in a way that asymmetrically benefits China's domestic policies and whatever it is that they want to do. So, for example, one of the things that China has been doing is they say, look, we want to industrialize, we want to have a cut of the high-tech industry. So what do? They subsidize the cost of raw materials. They subsidize the cost of power. They give preferential land use policies to Chinese companies. They force American companies to do joint ventures with Chinese companies. And part of those joint ventures is the American company has to give all of the technology to the Chinese company. So they're engaged in massive intellectual property theft. Let's call it what it is. It's theft, right? So trading with China is not free. We're paying for it with their technology, and ultimately, and I've been talking to small businesses, local manufacturers all throughout the country, and they're telling me, how am I supposed to compete with China when the price of Chinese goods is subsidized by the government to the point where they're driving me out of business, right? This is, what Peter Navarro talks about all the time. It's dumping. China is selling below-cost goods to kill American businesses, and once they take over that market, they jack up the price anyways.
And, we had this impression that Chinese could do no wrong. Obviously, it was like Japan, same thing. But what we're seeing, I don't know about you, but I would not fly on the Comac C919 jet. It looks like an Airbus, kind of a cross between an Airbus and a Boeing. But every test, they don't bother doing private testing like Boeing and Airbus, where they test the hell out of the thing and find every flaw. They do real-time passenger testing. The passengers are part of the product development, and I would not go on that thing. And look, Spencer, everything in the place is collapsing. Tofu dreg construction, buildings, just a major bridge in Beijing. It was 25 years old. And it just collapsed the other day. And that's emblematic. So This is what they're exporting to the world is tofu dreg. And perhaps Trump will get the better of them. He couldn't be in a better position to do it now because their economy is definitely on the skids. Debt crisis, They might have the largest hoard of gold in the world, but in the end, that's not going to save them.
Well, I think it's goes back to the age-old maxim: you get what you pay for, don't you? You get what you pay for. If you're getting cheap Chinese goods, they're going to be cheaply made as well, right? And I think that's something that people don't understand. I did some research into this in the book, actually. So in the book, we look at the cost of appliances, household appliances. And everybody thinks they're getting a good deal on these household appliances because they're getting the parts from China. The parts are cheaper. They can take the sticker price of the product down, right? Mm-hmm. The problem is that these machines are all failing way earlier than they used to be failing. Manufacturers are not sticking behind, big ticket warranties. They're not even willing to give you a 10-year warranty on most products because they know it's going to fail before that. 1 in 5 refrigerators fail within 4 years. Yeah. So when they say it's cheap goods, what they actually mean is it's cheaply made and you're going to buy it 2 or 3 times in the same lifespan of a product that was made 30 or 40 years ago. So is it cheaper? No, it's not. It's more expensive because you're buying it 2 or 3 times. And I think that's what consumers really need to understand. The sticker price is not the cost of the good. The price is the price, but it's not the cost. The cost is if I'm using this product for 50 years and I got to buy it 3 or 4 times, that's the cost of the product.
That's it. Penny wise and pound foolish, as my mother used to say. And
wise lady.
Yeah. And like you said, you get what you pay for. And well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I don't think Trump is one to give up an advantage, a negotiating advantage that he actually has. Maybe there's things we don't know about. Maybe the agreement's already been reached. One thing I would like to mention, Spencer, and again, book is highly recommended. It's called Reshore, How Tariffs Will Bring Our Jobs Home and Revive the American Dream. All these countries that Trump has called upon to negotiate agreements, all you hear in the media is these agreements take years and years to negotiate. Look, happened with the UK right away. With AI, basically all you do is you train an AI in international law, in tariffs and shipping, and then you feed in the agreement and you say, the existing one, you say, how are we getting screwed? And then it gives you a list, and then you say, what agreement should we have to not get screwed? Done in 5 minutes. What people don't understand is diplomacy is a grift. It's just another grift. You negotiate these agreements. The incentive is drag it out as long as you can so you get to go stay in 5-star resorts and you're drinking Chateau Lafite Rothschild by the case, 82, I might mention. And, you travel around from 5-star hotel, Michelin star dining only. And that's the way these diplomats have gone. But I think those days are over. There is no way that the UK agreement could have been negotiated without AI.
You're killing me here. I'm a lawyer. Yeah, you're exposing us here. No, it's definitely true. These agreements in principle do not take long to negotiate because I think everybody understands ultimately what the problems they want to address are, and the problems are usually 1 to 5 things that really need to be tackled, and the rest sort of falls into place. And of course, you're right. There's great. I use legal AI software in my own practice. Of course, there's great software out there that can help parse these deals and review them. And ultimately, what we really want is we don't want complicated trade deals. We want simple trade deals. This goes back to the tax code. The tax code is a huge tome. Why is the tax code a tome? Let's just say it's 10% of your income and call it a day. You can do it on it's a 1 sheet of paper. That's what it should be, and that's the way these trade deals should be as well. If we want more fair trade, how hard is it to say the tariffs will be level or whatever it is that we're going to do? What makes it complicated and what makes it dangerous is the devil's hide in the details, right? So the reason these trade agreements are so long is because people are, protecting special interests. They're getting goodies for one industry over the other. And really, when they say we've signed a free trade agreement, what they're actually saying is I've given all of my crooked buddies perks, and the people who are really going to hurt are the American people, the American consumer.
Yeah, well, I think that day is coming to an end. I think there's a lot more deals being made as we speak. It's a lot of deals, and you only got so many qualified people who you can trust in commerce and in state, right? because they're purging out the other ones who are untrustworthy, like U.S. aid, just totally going against the country's interests. And, it's going to be an interesting time here. But I'm, as someone once said, nauseously optimistic.
I like that. Nauseously optimistic. I'm I'm optimistic as well. I think the administration is moving on the right issues, and it's making headway in a way that hasn't been made in at least 50 years. And you got to give credit where credit is due. Nobody's even addressed or acknowledged these problems. The current administration has acknowledged the problems, and they're taking some steps to resolving them. So, kudos to them, and let's keep the momentum going.
It's totally been rug swept for 50 years. And so we're going to bring China in, and they're going to act like human beings, and, they're going to stop forcibly harvesting organs and sending people off to re-education camps because they're going to be making so much money, everything's going to be great. And that premise appears to have failed, and at least somebody is willing to bury it now, because we know what they're about. And, if they want to trade, I think there's a block that's forming against them, not the least of which was for the virus, where it occurred and where it was created. Forget about the fact that we, the United States, helped underwrite it. That's a story for another day. But end of the discussion is it happened there. So, hey, Spencer, just tell us, where do we find you? How do we get your book?
Yes, sir. You can find me on X and on Substack. The handles are both @RealSBMorrison. The book's available right now on Amazon, and it's also directly available from the publisher at calamopress.com. We sold out of the first print edition. We're coming out with a second edition here, so we're really happy. Thanks a lot. Yeah, we're really happy with it. It's going to be more of a collector. We got a paperback coming out. The book is you got to read the book. The book is great. It's a practical guide on how to reindustrialize America, and it gives everybody the tools they need to understand what's going on and understand how we have to fix it.
Well, I got it right here in front of me on Amazon. I assume it's on Amazon and wherever fine books used to be sold. And I just released a book myself called The World According to Martin Armstrong, and the link's in the show notes, and it can be bought. A fascinating story about a fascinating person who's made literally dozens of economic calls that have all come true, or mostly: crash of 87, unpegging of the Swiss franc, crash of the pound, and so many more. 2008 crash, just call after call. World According to Martin Armstrong. Links in the show notes. Spencer, appreciate you coming on the show. We'll talk to you again.
Thanks a lot, my friend. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.